Okay, we're going to do a live, but first I want to... Okay, we're going to do a live, but first I want to... It's a little crooked. But let's put on our tinfoil hats. Yeah, a lot of things that people say to denigrate us collectively in multiple ways. Like, and I'm waiting for Andromeda to get on this live because we're going to talk about spiritual arrogance. But before we go into that, and please feel free to share the live, is we're going to talk about the fact that many of you have had magical, mind-blowing occurrences. Some that you could record with a camera. And I just had a client share in our special little tribe group, Sacred Intimacy 1111, which is the group that Andromeda Flame and I support. There was one of our clients that came through with a sheet, CAT scan, and these incredible symbols that came out of nowhere, like these ancient symbols that look Druidic or Celtic and runes, and had held on to that for a long time because there's this real fear of psychosis in the spiritual community. You know, psychosis, aka corrupted downloads. But when you see things like that, like for example, when you take photos and you see globes all over you, you should be sharing this with people. You should be sharing this. Like I have pictures of my son when he was like 8, 9, 10. Still today, like one of our last pictures I took of him where I saw globes around him, lights you can't express and explain. And no, it's not the fucking camera, see? Because these globes don't appear with everyone. And I mean globes. I don't mean like a little dot that is a beautiful light, like many people see as two suns. I'm talking about multiple bubbles and auric-looking globes that are floating around a picture you've taken. You should be posting and sharing that. I don't give a shit how people receive it. Oh, it's the camera. Oh, it's the lighting. Dude, I can take the camera and shoot from my phone the same exact position and light and put someone else in front of my camera and there are no fucking globes, you idiot. Right? There are certain people that elicit those globes. You're not here to convince people, prove it to me, that reincarnation exists. You're not here to cater to idiots. You're here to share these incredible, magical, for the lack of a better word, transcendental, out-of-worldly data, intel, so that somebody who thinks they're going through psychosis, they're going through, I must be fucking going crazy. You know what I'm saying that? Because every call starts with, I think I'm going crazy. I need your help, Tony. And I'm going to tell you that that's the purpose of documenting, not just for your own little bubble of, what is that? What is that? Was that real? Was it the angle of the camera? Was it this? Was it that? In this case of what I just described, that this beautiful client, this beautiful soul who's in the medical profession was changing sheets. You know how you change sheets when you do, where you're changing a bed or you're changing for CAT scans or MRI or whatever. And there were these fucking symbols. And she took a photo. Personally, me, I would have stolen the sheet, but you know, she's a professional. I would have taken it. I would have found a way to fucking shove it in my bag. But she was shocked still, and had thank God, the mindset to take a couple photos and then showed it to her technician colleague, and held on to that and finally shared it with our group today. And it's a fury. And I was able to find, well, not to find, but to connect with a very famous channeler. I'm not sharing the name of this person, who saw the photos and said that she'll be working on seeing what this is. Because the reason I went to her is because she channels ancient pictogrammic symbolic languages that are very galactic. And so she said, I'll get back to you. So in a few days. So you got to understand, many of you are holding on to stuff because you're afraid to look like you're stupid. You're afraid to look like you're going through psychosis. So the purpose of creating these little groups, right, these little communities Unfortunately, we all still have to do it through the internet, through WhatsApp, through this, through that. It would be great if we could all live together, like live arm's reach or even 20 minutes away from each other. That'd be awesome. But that's not the reality right now. So that means that you need to like find people who resonate with your heart chakra, who feel like your tribe members or neighboring villages of soul tribes, and connect with them, and then form these groups on WhatsApp or whatever. I'm really not a big fan of Discord. I love that we have a WhatsApp group because it's immediate. Discord, to me, I'm kind of glad it was pulled down by this guy who was really sick in the head, but I'm glad it was destroyed because in a sense, there's much more of a community feeling. And every person that comes into the group is cherry picked to make sure that they are going to add value to all of these women, these goddesses, the high priestesses. So you need to create something like that for yourselves so that then you can actually expose certain things that you've experienced. Now, Andromeda, I'm going to find her right now. And we're going to talk about spiritual arrogance, which is going to be very important. Before I continue, Andromeda, where are you, my friend, my friend, my friend? Okay, let me... How the hell do I... Okay, how the hell... Ask to come on, my love. Carl Young, good evening from the UK. Love your content. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for being here. Hello, everyone. The feeling delusional is real. Yeah, Delulu. I think people call it Delulu. Like, you know, La La Lulu. It's not that. Thank you, sweetie. I was taking a picture of something, came out and the picture completely different. It's beautiful. Yes. So you're not... Okay, so Andromeda, let me figure out how the hell you... Okay, hang on. Perfect. So you take it away, my love. Go ahead. Let's talk about spiritual arrogance. You take it away.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if you heard that, but that was Poppy getting her opinion in first. Poppy's a cat, by the way, in case anybody didn't hear it.
Yeah.
But spiritual arrogance is a real concern in the spiritual community because what it does is it inhibits people who are maybe newer on the spiritual path or less confident on their journey. It inhibits them from actually coming forward and discussing matters of concern to them. You know, I had somebody commenting on one of my posts, you know, in a really patronizing way. Now, it's okay for me. I can kind of roll my eyes and think, you know, okay, you're arrogant. But the point is that when you're less confident or you're less sure of your own path, and someone presents as authoritative and they present as all-knowing, and then it can be very easy to be taken in by them. And this is where your discernment comes in. You know, is this somebody who is arrogant, or is this somebody who is acting from their heart chakra with authenticity? Because ultimately arrogance is not authentic, right? Arrogance is just a mask. Arrogance is egoic in all senses of the word, right? The 3D sense and the spiritual sense. It's very much egoic. So using your discernment when somebody says something with authority is crucially important so that you're not thrown down the wrong path, so that you don't attach yourself to somebody who ultimately is going to stand in the way of your spiritual growth. And that's why when Tony and I say something, very often it's channeled. Very often it's our throat chakra is being used as a channel for what our higher selves or our spirit guides feel you should know. And therefore spiritual arrogance doesn't come into it because it's not us saying it. Right? And again, let's talk about whether or not that's Delulu. It's not Delulu, because often when you say something that you're guided to say, that your higher self is speaking through you, or your spirit guides are speaking through you, or an ascended master is speaking through you, very often you will get confirmation through a synchronicity or something else that will confirm what you're saying as genuine and authentic, besides which you can feel it in your heart chakra.
Yeah. Exactly. So tell them what she said, or shall I?
You can tell. You can tell them.
I'm the bad cop. Okay. She said, I ascended years ago. Well, if anyone's read the Celestine Prophecy, or if anyone has read, or does it, if anyone knows the history of the Harappan Valley, I'll give you the analogy of the Harappan Valley. That's probably best. The Harappan Valley was a civilization with plumbing, like it had hot and cold water, the whole bit, like the Romans. It was a civilization that lasted 1,000 years, and inexplicably, suddenly one day, the people disappeared. So, being that it was in India, the thought was they're conquering, because the Persians conquered India at some point. But the question was it conquered? No. Was there an apocalypse or a plague? No. It was very similar like Pompeii, except the difference with Pompeii is we got to see the bodies, right? That were casted, right? There was people died in their spot. But what was interesting about the Harappan, similarly to Pompeii, which were the following: you saw people who were in eating. You saw bread still in ovens. You saw, in other words, as if something stopped life, daily life. That's what they saw in the Harappan Valley. Now, they had found 2,000 seals, like intanglio seals, in the Harappan Valley, aka in Hindus Valley. And those seals had bulls and lions and pictogrammic, cuneiform, pictograms, like marks, like writings, ancient writings. But what fascinated me, and that's when I realized what had happened to the people. And then, again, this is my theory, okay? Was they found men, shamanic men, sitting cross-legged with erections, and that really like shocked me. Like, what is the message to this, right? What is the message? And I knew there was something beyond just a tantric aspect to it, right? And I realized later on that it was a message from the ancients saying, if you don't work on your root chakra, if you don't work on these chakras, you will never be able to sustain. That's why at that point, once I realized that, so what happened to the people is they disappeared into 5D or 6D, or I don't know, but they're still there. They're just no longer in our dimensional frequency match, because as a collective, they actually ascended out of 3D. So my point to the woman saying I ascended years ago, girl, you wouldn't be on my TikTok if you had.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean,
that's the point.
The massive difference between saying you're on the ascension path,
right,
which many of us are, and saying you've ascended. There's an interview with Dolores Cannon on Gaia.com, and she talks about what will happen when people ascend to the 5D. Mm-hmm. And she said, initially, you'll be in your body. All right. Initially, you will be in your body, but then eventually, you will just become a light body. Mm-hmm. And this is undoubtedly what happened in the Harappan Valley.
Yep.
Is that they ascended, they maintained their bodies, they were using their bodies to spread the message that we need to make our chakras healthy, we need to connect with Pachamama, all of these things that are good for our root chakras. And then at a certain point, they became light bodies. And we can't see them anymore.
And I love how you said that, because as you were saying that, they're showing me right now. So I was in California. I was in Northern California. This was pre-COVID, so we're talking 2019. Me and my twin are in Union, and we're hanging out. He actually left the car. I'm sitting at the beach, and it's around 4:35. It must have been winter, because the lights, are a different light in the winter season. So he was out on the beach, hanging out, and I decided to sit in the car and just look. And I was seeing people coming from the beach, and they were no longer, how you see all the different colors of our hair, our skin, our clothes, whatever. They look like light bodies. And at that point, I was hypnotized, and I started seeing them just coming out of the beach with this light, and they look like light bodies, exactly what you described. And then I realized that is how our next understanding of our own reality is how we will appear to ourselves and each other. Does that make sense? In other words, it's a light body. It's a shift. And so one of the things I remember hearing that was really interesting, and it resonated so much, is that some of these dimensions that we talk about are right here on planet Earth. It's like a layer cake of different dimensions and realities. And of course, they're in other planets as well. And there are other planets. I was talking to you, Andromeda Flame. Remember this morning, I was saying, what I'm realizing is that there are other planets besides this one that's 3D, but they're homogeneous, meaning they are very boring, actually. In other words, I'll give you an example. So there was one planet that I did a hypnotherapy session for a client who was going through a transgender. They were shifting from masculine to feminine, right? And so she had a past life on a blue planet where they could shift genders at will. And she actually saw me there. I was a shaman there. She said I was there, that took me by surprise. By on the side note, but the way she came into the first incarnation on planet Earth is simply a portal open, and she stepped in and decided to experience the human experience as we know it, because there's no diversity. A lot of these planets, like one of the planets where me and my twin were together, we were a red race of people, and I mean lipstick red, okay, like the color of a red lipstick. And we had black hair. We all looked pretty much the same for variations of features. He had gold hair on his back, on his chest, on his arms, definitely gold hair. And I remember him throwing me over his shoulder, and we were just going to have sex. So it was a very Neolithic, very primitive planet. So this idea that we're the only 3D existence is crazy, right? And so the 3D consciousness it's not unusual to incarnate onto other. My point is, you can actually incarnate in a 3D match to other planets and to experience that. And I was telling her, remember I was saying, it's funny, the very thing that they've pitted against us, race wars, right? Using race against us, the most beautiful thing about our planet is we're so fucking diverse as with all the the multiple faces and the multiple races and religions and all of that should have been a gift to us in 3D. And all of the diversity of this planet, the waterfalls, the snow, the this, the beach, the that, the other. It's so weird to me, like, and I never understood it until like recently. The very thing that is the most beautiful gift in 3D has been pitted against us to divide and conquer us. Right? I mean, it's just insane to me now.
Yeah, it's enormously sad that the diversity, and it's diversity of humanoids, but diversity of plants, of animals, of weather, of landscape. This is an incredibly beautiful and diverse planet. And one of the sad things is that so many people are invested in 3D. If you've ever had an experience of being in a transcendental state, when, for me, it's when I'm with my twin, right? And I'm not here. I'm not fully here. Colors become so bright, so beautiful. You see more colors. You hear songs in a different way. You experience weather in a different way. You look at the sky and it's not just blue, it's a million different blues. And one of the really sad things is when you're in 3D consciousness, you can't really enjoy this beautiful planet to the full extent.
This is why, and I was one of these people, so I'm not judging because I get where it's coming from. I fucking hate living here. I said this in the previous live, but I'm seeing new people, so I'm going to repeat myself, so be patient with me. But I hate being here. I'll never fucking come back to planet Earth, okay? Well, the thing is, it's not that you hate the planet, because let's be honest, the planet is not the problem. It's the 1% connecting and controlling and putting their fucking boots on our throats. So that's really why you don't want to be here. Because if that was not here, if that was not happening, and this planet was back to its 5D beginnings, right? You know what I mean? Before Atlantis even was born, you would say, oh, this is fabulous. I'm happy. There's abundance for everyone. There's no problem. So it's not the planet that you don't want to be on. It's the 1% that got us to fall from 5D to 3D bullshit. And it is a very hard planet. Don't get me wrong. It is a very hard, like even the primitive planet I just spoke to you about when me and my twin, at least we didn't have to deal with the 1% bullshit. Okay. But we were a primitive people, a primitive sentient beings. Right. And we probably didn't really understand God. I'm being told to tell you that. Whereas we do have a sense now of our who made us, the one of 1,000 names, the one who created us all. So there is that at least acknowledgement in some capacity. Does that make sense? But now we have to go beyond being manipulated by the 1%. And that is a conversation that's very much, if you're in a twin flame and a runner chaser dynamic, the 1% and the way the system works, as you well know, better than probably me, is it's created bills. It's created taxes. It's created all this shit to keep us completely distracted from sitting in nature and having these fantastic downloads. If Yeshua was alive today and had to do what you guys are doing day to day, working 9 to 5 or whatever, or running your business, I don't care if you have your own business or you're working for the man or whatever that means, you are not going to be able to get the freedom of movement to go seek knowledge day by day by day by day. So we steal moments for these moments of self-enlightenment. And that is fucked up. I'm sorry. What are your thoughts on that?
That's and this is the difficult thing, because those of us who are on the ascension path, we've got one foot in the 3D and we've got another foot somewhere else, and the 3D feels incredibly dense. And rather than moving away from the, let's get woo woo, okay?
Yeah.
But rather than moving away from the draconian reptilian agenda of ruling through fear, of punishment, of enslavement, rather than moving away from that, we are getting closer and closer and closer as a species, as a human species, to that ethos. Because everything about our lives is controlled, or seemingly controlled, by the 1%. And therefore, for those of us who can see a different earth, can feel what the new earth will feel like, it is on us. It is on us to keep visualizing the new earth. It is on us to free ourselves from those shackles of the Anunnaki, of the reptilians, of the density of 3D. It's on us. And there's amazing, I think I shared it with you a while back, Tony, but an amazing interview with George Orwell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he's actually being interviewed on his deathbed. And he's being interviewed about 1984. And if any of you haven't read 1984 is essential reading, absolutely essential reading. So please do read it. But it's a, I hesitate to say fictional, but when Orwell wrote it, it was a fictional dystopian future where everybody was controlled by TV screens, everybody was tracked. It was enormously oppressive. There was a lot of propaganda. And when he was interviewed about this, he said, this is what the future will look like. Think of a boot on a human neck. And then he looks straight into the camera and says, don't let it happen. It's up to you.
Wow, that's heavy. It's heavy.
Now, he obviously saw one way humanity could go. We're seeing the other way. So don't fear it, right? Don't fear it. Just visualize what you want. Just visualize the new earth, where we're in 5D consciousness, where we've got none of this egoic bullshit, where the 1% cannot affect us, cannot affect our equilibrium, cannot affect our happiness.
Well, that's why they're panicking.
Yes.
That's why they're, and it's funny because I'm going to bring up Mel Gibson. So Mel Gibson, I mean, I've had my Mel Gibson. I'll call it my Mel Gibson era. I've done it once in my life. Okay, just so you know. So yeah, when bullshit is upon us, some of us don't have the fucking patience to be diplomatic anymore. So when somebody's fucked over, righteous anger, vulgar anger can erupt. So the human experience is a true thing that you should never be ashamed of. Just try not to do it again and try to repair it if it's valid to repair. So with that said, so Mel Gibson decided, and I don't know if you ever saw him in the movie Lethal Weapon 1, the opening scene where he's playing Russian roulette. The ability for him to express everything in a look. I've never seen that. I love Steve McQueen. I love all these guys, but no, that was Mel Gibson. That was his forte. He could do that. So this man is definitely, some of you might say he's bipolar, this and that. I'd say to you, no, he's fucking irreverent. And so when he made The Passion of the Christ and took $20 million to make that movie, I'm not Christian, meaning I don't follow a religious orthodox, but I do follow Yeshua. But with that said, when you see the movie where he's doing Aramaic and Latin, because he understood the vibration of the languages and then subtitled the fucking thing. Because he knew that for you to understand on a visceral level, you had to understand or hear vibrationally languages that you had heard when you lived during that time or within a 500 period of that time frame. Does that make sense? And that movie shocked Hollywood because he basically told him to fuck off. And he kicked ass and did his own thing. And of course, having the masculine experience and a lot of the things that are trapped in the root chakra, even though he did what he did, he's accomplished some amazing feats. He's been attacked, as you know. And what he has been saying for years, what David Icke has been saying for years, I'm talking about decades, okay? These men have been maligned because we're not supposed to have rage. Well, when you think you have a lover that is for you and you think they have your back and they betray you, I'm sorry, you're going to lose your shit. So we need to stop judging and really looking at why would certain things be there to expose other people to look like assholes and to corrupt the collective of somebody who's a wayfarer, a light bringer with massive passion. And why that would be happening, because I can tell you, if you look at Hollywood and you look at the history of politicians, there was a book that you can't find. If you gave me $100,000, I could not find that book to save my life. It's a book called Sex in Washington. And it was high-class hookers being interviewed about what these MFers do, on their breaks after hours. And the deviancy is fucking shocking because you're saying, and this was written in the 1970s. And I was reading that at a very inappropriate young age, but my parents were amazing. As long as, and that's another story, but they were amazing. And what I will say to you is I read the book Studying the Psychology of People in Power at a very young age and realized that and with horror, by the way, these MFers are making decisions, life and death decisions with this in their root chakra. Holy shit, we're fucked. Nothing's changed, by the way. Nothing's changed. People are, in fact, if anything, they're worse than they were in the 70s. And that's saying something. Why? Because of PORN in the internet. Anyone can access to the dark web and all kinds of weird shit, okay? Shit that's not good for your mind, your heart, your ascension. These people are running the show. So what David Icke was saying now, and again, your homework, my beautiful soul tribe, is to go to Gaia.com and look up Renegade and see how David Icke was activated and what he went through, the witch hunt. And so now, as we catch up with some of these amazing minds waking up, we're realizing, we're coming to a realization, and these realizations can be really hard to swallow. There can be a bitterness to your mouth. I was telling Andromeda this morning, when I was 8 years old, I lived in Vevey, Switzerland, and I was really looking for Jesus. I sort of, I knew this was an extraordinary figure. And this friend, who was like 9 years old, wanted me to go to these 10 Christian get-togethers. She kept inviting me, and I kept refusing because I knew that this was not, it didn't taste right. It tasted like bitter poison. And Andromeda said, because you were a Knights Templar, which, and that, I mean, I knew that. But when she said it as to the reasoning behind me at 8, because I was like, why would an 8-year-old be against going to a gathering that's going to talk about the very high level soul, right? Like this avatar, this incredible messenger of God, the universe. Why would I not want to hear these people? Why would it feel like poison in my mouth? And when she said that, it shook me. So what I'm saying to you is, like, trust, like, go back, excavate yourself as a child, go back to these ancient wisdoms that you held in your consciousness as a little boy or little girl, and start writing it down, and then start connecting the dots, because all of that is going to help you with your ascension. What are your thoughts, or what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's like, I think I told you, I'd tell my story about, my twin 2000 years ago, right? That I had nightmares about crucifixion as a child, like recurring intrusive nightmares. And it wasn't until I had hypnotherapy that it became clear why. That I had seen my twin crucified 2000 years ago.
Yeah. Continue. Tell them what you said about that, because go ahead.
About crucifixion in general.
Yeah, and the Anunnaki, if you could share that, because I want, this is a beautiful, not beautiful, but it's something that's important to understand.
Yeah, and it's to do with, we were talking about, the context of the conversation was, we were talking about the Roman Empire, and how brutal the Roman Empire had been. And I said, well, any so-called civilization which uses something like crucifixion as not just a punishment, but as a control mechanism, that's straight from the Anunnaki. Yep. The Anunnaki told us, when we were enslaved by them, mining gold for them, which they needed for their planet, that if we didn't do what we were told, we would be punished for eternity. What does that sound like? It sounds like the God of the Old Testament, right? And the Romans, again, perpetuated that ethos. And remember where that ethos comes from, right? We're going to go back further. We're going to go back to the Elohim, the angels, these high dimensional beings, one of whom was Lucifer. And Lucifer broke off from the other Elohim because he had a greed for exploration. And part of that ethos was domination. And he then created the reptilian race. And the Anunnaki are half reptilian and half other galactic being from the Galactic Federation. And so that reptilian ethos is exactly what has been used to control us for millennia. It's not a recent thing. This has been going on for millennia. We are so conditioned, so comfortable with being controlled, that when your eyes open, it can be enormously difficult and terrifying to accept. But that's exactly what ascension is all about.
So let's deconstruct that, because we were deconstructing the concept of evil and good, or light or love. How about this? The opposite of love and love. So Lucifer is the opposite of love, right? And he's co-creating a race. He's able to create, we're all able to create stuff, right? And as we went down to amnesia, what I call spiritual Alzheimer's, we forgot some of the key things, right? We always were born to know, we always knew upon our making. So what's interesting about because 5D, you might think, well, in 5D, is there evil? Like, if there's not evil in higher dimensions, well, why would Lucifer be born from evil? Well, that's a good question. Yes, 6D is how much we remember, but it doesn't determine good or evil. There's a split, clearly, right? Now, you might say, well, that's polarity. Yes, but what's happening with the ascension is we're clearing up shop. We're going to dim the light of evil. So that's why there was genocides on other planets, right? So how would that happen? And this latest interview, 2024, with Gina Meredith, is that war and famine was imported onto planet Earth. It's not our birthright as humanoids, as we were created. It was imported. So how does that happen? So what does 6D mean? Are we impervious to evil? No, the evil is there. But if we gravitate more to light, we're divinely protected from being harmed. And so there are two splits of realities and worlds. Does that make? What do you think? Could you expand on that, Andromeda?
Yeah, and it's also to do with the fall. Okay, because if you're in higher dimensional consciousness and you enter into either a physical lower dimension or lower dimensional thinking, either in that lower dimension or not, you will fall from higher dimensional consciousness. This is what happened to a lot of us. Mm-hmm. Right? What Tony's been talking about a lot recently. When did we fall?
Yeah.
Right? Because the reptilians were enormously, what they did is they were enormously technologically advanced, but they didn't accompany that with spiritual advancement.
Yes.
Right? And they therefore fell from higher dimensional beings to probably 2D.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's where we're being dragged down. We were talking, I think, last week, Tony, about 2.5D, right? This is where they want us.
Right. Yes.
They want us lower than 3D, because at least when we're in 3D, we have a chance of ascending.
Yeah.
But your ascension will never be permanent. Your ascension will not be successful if you continue to be in lower dimensional thinking, as in egoic thinking.
Exactly. So this idea of arrogance in the spiritual community is also as toxic as false humility.
Yep.
And so the false humility is self-loathing and lack of self-importance. So there's a balance to that, right? So you'll have people who go, "Oh, I'm not ready. I'm not important. I don't have that kind of power. I got to get my ducks in a row." And so what it does is it keeps you muzzled. And so that also is, so you would say, well, but they're humble. No. It's a negative humility. It's a toxic humility because it's self-deprecating humility. Like, okay, so when I decided to go really more vocal, right, in my spiritual work with the public, right? Obviously, I was a reader. I've been a reader for decades. But the point is, when I started actually doing these kinds of lives and these kinds of content, right, it came to a place where I realized I'm not liking what people are saying on the spiritual journey. In particular, Twin Flames was the jumping board, if you will, because I saw a lot of toxic, I don't know what to say. I can't say it nicely. A lot of fuckery was being said, or regurgitated, or it can't be your twin flame if he's a narcissist. It can't be a twin flame if he's having sex with other women. It can't be all that bullshit. It was such bullshit. I was like, I can't. I'm getting on the fucking train tracks, and I'm getting on the damn train, and I'm going to be the conductor of the story to bring some kind of sense and reasoning behind how we incarnate into these 3D dimensional consciousness, and how the filtering system of the DNA of our bloodlines. So, for example, and this is I know this for a fact, if you are a Holocaust survivor, your grandparents went through the trauma, and then your mother or father or both, and then you still have the reverberation of survivor's guilt. Now, Andromeda can actually, being a physician, she can actually tell you that there's a correlation between generational trauma that still plays itself out. Does that make sense? So there's that filtering system. Then there's the filtering system of your 3D brain that gets locked and loaded into a cemented position. From 0 to 7, you can actually, some of these kids are coming out fully remembering, and some of this shit gets shut down by the time they're 3, right? Because they're articulating by the time they're 2 and 3 what they're seeing, what they're remembering, and so forth. But it gets shut down by very scared we'll hear women. I'll hear women say, "My kid said so and so." It scares me. It scares me. And so, can you imagine being confronted? Your mother is afraid of your amazing connection with God, your past incarnations, and it's scary. So then, at that point, it's a shutdown, and cement is poured over that memory, and life goes on. You know, you start going to school, you're clocking in for your job, and one day you go through the dark night of the soul, and and your guide comes in with a sledgehammer, breaking down that cement to free you from that prison. But you have to understand, this is hard shit. Like, so if you can do it in these bodies, yeah, it's a fucking flex. You should be proud, and not in a, again, egoic way, but proud. Like, you should be like, good girl, good boy. Like, you should talk to a little boy or a little girl and pat them on the head and give them a big hug and go, "I'm so proud of you for helping me come out of this jail." I'm sorry, I just need to say that.
Yeah, and the only way out of the dark night of the soul is to allow those walls to be broken down. Because you won't come out of the dark night of the soul if you're going to maintain the same way of thinking. The whole point of the dark night of the soul is to destroy the paradigms you hung on to before, so that you can see things and see things in a different way and live in a different way. That's the whole point of it.
Absolutely. And Loretta says we're all given free will, the choice to decide good and evil. And then Rachel says 5 generations of trauma in the DNA has been proven. This is helping me so much. Beautiful. And others. Yeah, because we have to understand what we're working with. So, I mean, it's funny because this conversation is a continuum of my first live on why we fell, my second live on why we fell. And again, I came across that concept of, see, I have my own story of why me and my twin fell. And I just thought it was, I don't know, like, it's weird how you know, but you don't know, right? The more you know, the less you know. And then I remember doing the hypnotherapy with this beautiful person who on the blue planet that I just mentioned in this life, a few minutes ago, and all she did was decide she wanted another experience. So I saw, and she described it as she said it. I saw the portal opened. There was a portal that opened, and she went into the necessary dimensional, whatever the frequency was. I never got to see if she went into 3D. It could have been 5D, actually, because she would have started her incarnations probably because of her gentleness as a soul. Lemuria is my hit. So that would have been a 5D, maybe even 6D vibration on this planet. But my point is, she didn't fall, did she? She didn't fall because she fucked up and ate the apple of knowledge or did something evil. She fell because she simply decided to move from one dimensional reality to another. And it was a clear decision. And anyway, it's extraordinary to me. And I think for many of us, we need to remember the day we fell, like the moment we fell, so that we can recapitulate and repair the tear in timelines. There's a book this is so off topic. You know how I go off and I weave in and out of conversations, but there's a book I'm told to share with you that I share with a client this morning. It's called Somewhere in Time. That don't watch the movie, please read the book. Somewhere in Time by Richard Matheson, or however you pronounce it. Just look up Somewhere in Time, Richard, and you should by Richard, written by Richard. And this shows you how we can actually how we can manifest portals to open to bring us into different timelines. And I remember reading that book when I was 14, and it was a paperback. I read it in 1975, 76, whenever, thereabouts. I read that book 20 times because no one was writing books like that. No one. It's based on a fiction, aka, but I wonder if it's not, because it fell so much, or it could have been a download, and the author didn't know he was downloading. Well, he must have. But the point is, read that book. Holy fuck. So anyway, back to you, my love.
No, I was just listening to you. The moment we fell, it's important to understand. It's important to understand that we didn't fall because we did anything wrong.
we fell because we were in a lower vibrational state, a lower vibrational place, and it's all part of our journey, right? Just like all of it, just like all of the pain, and recognizing this stuff can be pretty brutal, pretty painful.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I saw in my hypnotherapy was the fall of Atlantis.
That's true.
And being in the water, actually being underwater. Yeah. And I saw the ships coming to rescue people. And this was the fall for a lot of us. Mm-hmm. And the separation for a lot of us, because it created massive guilt and trauma in the masculines in particular.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the masculines survived. So recognizing these things and understanding what to heal, what are the priorities for you to heal, and through doing so, through healing the big stuff, you'll have a cascade effect, and then the little stuff won't be so hard. It's all part of your healing journey, and all part of that cleansing journey as we move towards 5D consciousness.
And the 5D consciousness that we're actually walking towards is the heavenly planet energy. That means that, there'll be jealousy, envy, but there won't be murder. There won't be these fuckeries. There will not be famine and geno plans. And certainly, of course, there won't be wars. And Lee Harris talks about that. I was shocked because I've been saying this for the last a year, whatever. But to hear Lee Harris confirm, see, there's your truth and then there's absolute truth. So when you hear another, and I respect, he would not be sitting as a guest with Regina Meredith because she's a bullshit meter like you wouldn't believe. And every blue moon, she'll fucking bring people on because I have a feeling guy says, look, we're not asking an interview, we're telling you an interview. And you can tell by her face, she's like, they're full of shit. You can actually see it. But with Lee Harris, he comes in as a guest at least twice a year. She highly respects him, so as I do. And so here he is sitting for 2024 interview, saying what I'm saying. It's over. It's not. So you might say, well, what about like Luciferian things on other? It's a force field that bounces them out. So for the most part, we'll still have certain human experiences. Don't get me wrong, but it won't be to the level that we've had to endure for these thousands of incarnations, thousands and thousands of years. And so that is going to be the shift. And that's what, and of course, like I keep saying, I keep using Mad Max as a great example. God bless Mel Gibson again for his Mad Max. I watched the one with Tina Turner. What a fucking shit show. But wow, that's what people are actually gearing for. The preppers, right? Bullets, guns, grenades. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it's really interesting to see people, and it's no different than the 1950s when they all had bunkers because the Russians were coming. You know what I mean? So, and again, I remember when the Y2K happened. God bless my brother. He had the money to do it. Clocking $1 million a year, but so they had, so it's weird sometimes when people are stupid with their money. But so they were getting water, arms, food, because Y2K was coming. I remember in my little attic apartment with my husband then, and just completely relaxed, going, nothing's happening. We're just basically moving from one century to the next. There's nothing wrong. But I'm going to be honest with you right now, 2024 I'm taking this shit seriously. Okay. This is the crossroad moment that Y2K promise, 12/12 promise, and nothing happened. And I knew nothing would happen because I remember when I saw, it's the calendars. Yes, the calendar's ended. I go, it's the end of a fucking bullshit era. Good. Fucking let's move on. But now that we're going through a massive shift, take this shit seriously now, folks. See, now I'm going to tell you, this is the crossroad moment we've been waiting for. So now we have to get serious about how we manifest the new earth and how we show up and how we see the collective moving onto the Noah's Ark, if you will. I don't know how you want to see it, crossing bridges, getting on the fucking train. I don't care. But see us collectively thriving, abundance of love, health, and wealth, abundance for everyone, wisdom, the abundance of wisdom in our communities, massive amount of wisdom and generosity of heart. Please start using these intentions during your meditation, during your 369 project. You're trying to manifest shit for yourself, right? Really cool stuff for yourself. Please take a sentence just for the collective. Yeah, I think we all need to do that. Does that make sense? Any questions? Sarah, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and also if you when you're manifesting, what really helps your manifestations is how will this help the collective, right? Every method of manifestation, from the Silva method or 369, if you're manifesting something with the intention of not just helping yourself and your immediate circle, but helping the collective, that manifestation is so much more powerful. No, it was Loretta said, I find it hilarious, and for some reason I just kept getting the movie Don't Look Up.
Oh, what is that movie? Hang on, why is that familiar?
It's the one Meryl Streep plays like a female Trump type president,
Oh, wow.
and there's a comet, right, that's headed for Earth, and like there's all the people saying don't look up, don't look up, don't look up, right, because as they see the comet approaching Earth. And there's this old, like, racist, obnoxious general of the Air Force, right?
Right.
And as the comet's approaching Earth, he's in his front garden shooting at it. Right?
That's the mentality. That's the mentality.
Preppers, right?
Yeah. Right. The preppers, and not, God bless them, because it's all they got, and they don't. They're, you gotta understand the consciousness of the average human being is. I gotta see it to believe it. So the way I would express that absurdity of I've got to see it to believe it was, well, you don't see oxygen, do you? Can you bottle it right now? I mean, the oxygen in your room, right? Because we know we can bottle oxygen, but we have to manufacture. I'm saying, in your room right now, can you bottle it? Okay, can you see it? No. If I suck the oxygen out of your room, what would happen to you? After 10 minutes, I would die. No, you'd be dead in 10 minutes. You'd be dead. You'd be brain dead. Okay, so we agree on that, yes? Yes. Okay, so that means that lots of unseen shit is possible, correct? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That means that when you manifest, you can't see it. You can't. Sometimes you can't even hear it. You can't feel it, but you see the results in 3D. A feather, $100 bill. I'm not joking. It comes in the. They know what you want to see. You want to see something material, so they'll start showing it to you, and then they'll realize, oh, she's paying attention. He's paying attention. Let's now show them a download. Let's give them images of something that is about to happen. You would call it a deja vu. It's a download of the future from the Akashik records. And suddenly you're sitting there going, holy shit, wait, hang on, I just experienced this. Like, wait, didn't I see? And then your mind just get jumbled because it's the 3D mind, the monkey mind, trying to make sense of how is this possible that I saw a future a week ago, 3 days ago, and here I'm at it verbatim, here it is, being unraveled in front of my eyes right now. And for many, that's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
And it is, but the thing is, if people want proof, right? And we're not here to prove anything.
Yeah.
But when you listen to accounts of hypnotherapy, and you've got people saying the same things.
Yeah.
And these are people who have no prior conscious knowledge of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But you have several people describing what happened on Lemuria. You have several people describing what happened on Lyra. You have several people describing pre-incarnation memories.
Yeah.
Memories of themselves in spirit state, right? In soul state.
Yeah.
And you have you have all of these synchronicities, similarities, consistencies. Why is that not proof?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't make this up. And other things like, I know that, people talk about numbers a lot, right?
Yeah.
But if you're seeing 144 like 100 times a day,
Yeah.
that's no accident.
Absolutely.
And I am, by the way, I am seeing
Yeah.
144
We're
about
both
200 times a day.
we're both seeing it a lot. It's insane how it appears. It doesn't
Yeah,
make it just and your eyes you start getting trained like you showed one on your page, right?
yeah,
And I was like shocked because I wasn't looking there. I was looking above or whatever. But I'm getting the same thing, and it's weird. And and the messages continue. Like I was telling like there was a client where I had to tell him, yeah, it's not a twin flame. And the other thing is she wasn't seeing any of her twin flame numbers. So besides 144, which is a massive graduation, 1111 starts. It starts with the whisperings of 1111. And then you'll see it going into 555, right? Which is transformation. And so on and so forth. But when you start seeing 144, which I started seeing last year, beginning of last year, like a lot, like insanely a lot, 144, 414, and so on and so forth, and 333. That's when I started realizing, and you and Drama, we met last year. I realized that is the ascension sign.
yeah,
But when you're in a twin flame, like and now I can share with you, and I've shared it before. My twin flame's birth date was 12/23, right? December 23rd. 23 is an amazing number. Well, I'll give you an example. My expiration date on my card was 12/23. I would see 12/23 everywhere. I still see it today. My name, my maiden name, and my married name, with my maiden name attached, is 23. My birth date is 23. All kinds of shit will come again and again. His expiration date on one of his cards was my birthday. I remember seeing also his social security. I don't know why I never added it together. Was my birthday. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? So you'll see the universe is trying to give us as many clues as possible, but this fear in the spiritual community of psychosis is actually toxic as fuck, because the minute the spiritual community is running on fear, right then you know that's not the right spiritual community you want to be with. Because do you understand what I'm saying? Because you don't have to worry about psychosis. Trust me, you'll be able to recognize psychosis in a heartbeat. The psychosis that you fear is based on self-doubt and you're afraid of being crazy. But to be honest with you, you don't have to worry. I remember once a client came to me, and yes, she was really psychotic, okay? Really, really spiritually aware of shit, but yes, not well, okay? And of course, I refunded her money and said, no, and I didn't tell her that, by the way. I would never harm someone. I just said, I don't think we're a match. I want to send you blessing, blah, 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 blah. And then she texted me back, I've been in mental hospitals back. Boom, there you go. Okay, so don't worry, okay? If you have a history of going in and out of hospitals and this and that, yes, you may want to pause the button and find yourself a really honest, transparent psychic healer who will maybe be able to help you get on the right path so that you're not riddled with bullshit and corrupted downloads, if that makes sense. Okay? I don't know why I needed to share that with you. It might not be for you, but it could be a message for someone who hears this recording later down the line. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Again, go off the track.
no, it's a very good point. Because that is at some point we have all thought that we're losing it.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. And it gets, you have to train yourself out of it. You have to train yourself out of the idea that if you're not happy on this planet, it means that there's something wrong with you. No, what it means is that you're feeling the density.
Yeah.
You're feeling the corruption. You're feeling the fact that you're not really from here.
Yeah.
Right? You're not the problem here. Okay.
It shows intelligence, to be
Yes.
honest. Because for you to be in this current infrastructure of fuckeries where the lesser of two evil is either Trump or now it's Kamala, whatever, and there's the fear of this, the fear of that, the grocery bills, the dollar's no longer linked to OPEC, shit like that. Yeah, you'd be insane to think, yeah, kumbaya, everything's good. What? Hang on, you got fools running the world. We just saw the Olympic openings, and we get to see the the nuts of some man. It's like the shit. Oh, by the way, that was Joan of Arc on that white pale horse, and I'm like, Joan of Arc, no, no, no. I'm half French. Don't bullshit. And French people came out of the woodwork saying, yeah, we don't fucking consent. This is bullshit. We're horrified. How dare they? The French all over the country basically started doing TikToks, fucking refuting that shit. So my point is, we're being run by a bunch of fucking deviant, perverted, mind-sucking, Anunnaki-led, monsters. And so if you don't feel right in your skin, welcome to the club, my friend. Welcome to the reality of an intelligent starseed who is feeling the fuckery and going, I just don't feel like I'm home, and I don't feel like no one understands me. You're actually correct. All of the above is correct.
I just need the water wall.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You're talking about an establishment. So it's funny.
Yeah.
I was talking to my twin about this the other day, and he was in fits of laughter over this. Okay, but you're talking about a well-known intelligence organization that attempted to unaliven a Cuban leader. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And what they did is they first tried to discredit him. So they tried to lace his food with a hallucinogen so that he would appear irrational. Then they tried to unaliven him with an exploding cigar. And then they tried to give him something to make his beard fall out. But that's the level of consciousness we're dealing with. Now,
Yeah.
when,
He's petty.
well, it's really, really ridiculous. These are the people we're supposed to be afraid of.
Yeah,
I mean, come on,
exactly.
people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exploding cigars, right? I just need to leave that there.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's like, because I mean, it's almost something out of Ian Fleming's James Bond series. You know what I mean? It's like some of it was camp, right? It was
Yeah.
like, I forgot the movie. Shag Me, Baby. I forgot the movie, but it was
Austin
camp.
Powers. Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. It's almost like to the level of stupidity, right?
Yeah.
But it's really, I mean, if George Carlin was alive today, he would have a field. Oh my God, we would probably be pissing in our pants, laughing our asses off on what he would say on what's happening today, because we really need comic relief right now, I have to say. And I'm not that clever. He's brilliant. I wish I was that clever, because I would do stand up on this shit. But and if you guys know anyone who's kicking ass on this particular timeline we're living in with the fuckery we're seeing, like, I'd love to see the feedback on the Met Gala and the Olympic opening. I would love to see, George Carlin would have ripped that. Anyway, so my point being is that it's almost over, and I keep saying it's the darkest before the dawn. My father used to say, he always said that, the darkest before the dawn. And if you've ever been insomniac, you know exactly what I mean. You've seen it. You've actually seen it.
Yeah.
So we're there. We're actually there. And what we do in the next 6 months, how many months do we have in the year? I don't know. Well, whatever. 6 months is actually critical to where we're going as a collective. And I mean that as a collective, not individually, because we all have our free will to continue our journey with or without the rest of the collective. So I know what I believe in, I know what I'm holding on to, and I know what I know, and I know what my birthright, know what I deserve, even better, my birthright as a spirit soul that was made probably, as you are, billions if not trillions of years ago, right? So I know what we've gone through in the looping mechanism that was reincarnation, that was, if you've ever seen paintings from the Krishna consciousness of the Ishkan temple, you see the baby coming out of the grave, teenager, man, old man, going back into the grave, and it looks exactly like a conveyor belt. And that was a reality. We did live like that. We were jumping into bodies again and again. We would live 2 years and die of a fever. We would live 5 years and die in a war, so on and so forth. So this is a reality. But that shit's over. Like when you say to your friends, I'm not reincarnating in this planet, what you're really saying is, I'm not reincarnating back into this dimension in the fuckery of this 1%. Enslavement situation. I'm going to live on higher dimensions. That's what you're claiming. So you may want to reframe the wording of it and say, I'm so grateful that my next incarnation is in 5D, where there's a lot of abundance of love, health, and wealth. Try to reframe it in a more positive light instead of a tone that says, I'm not fucking coming back. Maybe make it more positive so that the vibration is beautiful and filled with gratitude. If you might want to do it that way, you know what I mean, and share that with your friends so that they also can reframe the way they claim their new incarnations moving forward.
Because we've all said that, you know, we've all said, I'm not fucking coming back to this place, but actually it's a beautiful planet, and
absolutely,
if you manage to ascend while you're here, that really is a flex.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. But there's massive egoic frameworks to break through. The twin flame, twin ray journey is unspeakably hard on this planet. Unspeakably hard.
You're right. You're right.
And you know, it is the twins who are so essential in the ascension, and getting to that state of transcendentalism, inner union, 5D union, all of that stuff, as many in physical union as possible, because twins in physical union are powerful.
Very.
But we have huge problems on this planet with the egoic framework. And unfortunately, a lot of the masculines are invested in that 3D egoic framework. Some feminines too, but it's a particular problem with the masculines, because the masculines are under very heavy attack. You know, we as feminines, and many of us have had our last few incarnations as feminines, who have been, you know, burned as witches, who have been vilified as WHORES, who have been marginalized, who have been oppressed. We've had more practice at this than many of the masculines.
Yeah, but it's that, and I 100%, 1000% agree with you, my lovely sister. But I also feel it's the appendage between the legs. I'm just going to be straight up. When a man is a man, he's fully 100% aware, 24/7 of what's between his legs. Let's be honest. Whereas we women, because I've been in sacred circles with women many times, and they will not only be celibate in action, but celibate with themselves, if you get my drift. In other words, they can shut down the root chakra. Like it's a spiritual chastity belt. It's shut down. It's no lights are on. And the only problem with that is that therein lies the force of creativity and co-creation with the universe. From the root chakra begins. So when a woman decides to shut it all down, the point is she can. And when she does, she can, at that point, and many of them do, but there's a sadness, there's a soft sadness, a soft undercurrent of emptiness, which she may not even be consciously aware of as she proceeds. But she, at that point, if she's on a healing journey, will access all these esoteric spiritual books and do the work. And then one day she'll come across a video from a person like us, right? And about chakras. And then she will activate it. And one of the things that I used to use a lot was the yoni egg. And the yoni egg would, because you're inserting this powerful carnelian, for example, a carnelian crystal, and suddenly, fuck. I remember women going, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, you're being activated by the crystal, by also, and now you have to hold it on to it, right? Yes. You have to tighten your muscles, right? Yes, or else it falls, right? And so it would be active. It was insane to watch these women like going through, like it almost like somebody switching on the fucking lights all the way up, all the 9 chakras, and suddenly they would do things to pleasure themselves that hadn't done in 7, 10 years. When I say celibate to themselves, that's what I mean, to themselves. Does that make sense? It's one thing to be celibate. It's another thing to be celibate to yourself. Okay. And so that was important. And I think that the problem with the masculine is that because of there's, if you will, something, I don't want to be too vulgar, and I love being vulgar in the right reasons, but I don't want to get shut down. It's the only reason why I won't say it. But there's something about that can easily be manipulated.
Yes.
By anything, the wind, the ocean, a photo of a woman, the curve of a breast being revealed, whatever, or a man, another man, the outline of his, turning on. So my point is, and this between there is constantly being activated in some sense. It's being that's why it's being led. It can be easily led by social media. I mean, led by the nose, like to levels of, that's where men cheat and they'll go, I don't fucking know what was wrong with me. And then some of them, it's funny, they'll look down at their, and go, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you doing this to me? Right. And I mean, I think men can relate to that. And men need to become high priests. And they need to learn, I hate that word, but it's a tantric connection of holding back. And once you can control it, it becomes your ally, not your enslaver. And I think that has been one of the problems for the twin flame, in particular twin flame, and some twin rays and high-level soulmates and other wounded, broken, and divine masculines. That is massive. What are your thoughts? Any questions, you guys? And Andromeda, what do you feel about that?
No, I agree that it does mean that the masculine root chakra is much easier to be co-opted in a way, and it's co-opted in so many ways, because what is the root chakra? What does it govern? Well, it governs our connection to the earth, all right? And we're all disconnected. Well, certainly those of us who are living in cities, we're very much disconnected from the earth. We're disconnected from community, and we're disconnected from our own sense of sacred sexuality because of how religions have talked about it, because of PORN.
Yeah.
Because people are unable to discern the difference between sacred, healthy sexuality and deviancy, and other things as well. So it's not just overt PORN, but it's things like 50 Shades of Grey, right? Or other things that are anti-erotic, in my opinion, right? Because there's a massive difference between erotica and PORN. Right? So this idea that because the masculine's root chakra is just there, just out there, all right, it is much riper for manipulation. And it's getting worse. These like pretend plastic girlfriends, right?
Yeah.
This whole industry around plastic girlfriends. And this is what I mean. People can't discern the difference between healthy sexuality and deviancy, which is a major, major problem, and a problem that many of you will encounter with your twin or high-level soulmate, because these masculines are being attacked at the root chakra, center of it all. Without a functioning root chakra, the rest of it doesn't work. They can try all they want to open up their third eyes. If the root chakra isn't spinning, isn't functioning, isn't healthy, they haven't got a mission.
It's interesting too, because they're telling me to share this. So I'm going to share it. So my beautiful high-level soulmate husband, who died of a heart attack in 2020, in my son's arms, one of the things that my son saw, because he died, he was fully dressed in his shower. There's a reason. And he fell back into the shower. Okay. There's context to that. So one of the dreams he had within a week of his father's death, and you can look it up on my content. I talk about that actually, and you guys scroll all the way down. But anyway, one of the dreams he had was his father coming out of the shower, at his best, like 33, like beautiful, just gorgeous, right? And in his root chakra was a gold light, just blinding gold. And my son woke up that morning and said, Mom, he healed. He's completely healed. Because there was trauma there, massive trauma with my twin flame, same. And so I was concentrating when he passed a lot of, believe me, you're going to think this is weird, but I was putting a lot of energy in his root chakra with sandal oil and then wildflowers. And I had been working on his chakras like 2-3 days and actually weeks before his passing, because I knew. And the final healing, and this is why I often say this, sometimes death is the healing, because there are certain limitations that have been so cemented that they can't decalcify. It's impossible. And though he was brilliant, he was very much like a Nahual, which is like a psychic priest. From it's from Carlos Castaneda. Definitely Nahual. He would just have instant knowings, like out of nowhere. And he was right. But the promise is third eye to get more intel, more detailed intel. You know, like some of us get. He couldn't open it. And so death was the final to get him to fight. It catapulted him beautifully into the arms of 5D, divine unconditional love frequency. It was the final step. So ironically, we're more in union now than we were in the physical world together, if that makes any sense. So that's an example of how important that shit is. That's how important it is. So if you're not working on your chakras every day, right? Like you're taking your showers every day. Let me put it that way. I may not go for a shower in 2 days, but I fucking work on my chakras every day. Let's put it that way. There's the priority.
Yeah, at least daily, if not more. And prioritize that. I mean, look, meditation is also important, but there's little point in meditating if you're not working on your chakras.
Yeah.
You're going to get corrupted downloads. You're not going to be in a place, in a really receptive, beautiful place to get what you need from your meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or even start each meditation with a bit of a chakra cleanse, Ho'oponopono, or just, you know, light infusing and spinning your chakras.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow.
Enormously important.
Amazing. I'm like so happy. This is a good Sunday talk. Does
It
anyone have any questions for Andromeda? Any questions? Please, Phil. Don't be shy. There, you know, I used to hate professors that say there's no stupid question, because and then humiliate someone who did ask a stupid question. The only question that would be off topic would be, is John going to come back to me today? That would not be the appropriate question right now. But aside from that, as an example, any questions open, anything, like any downloads you're having, any fears you're having, any fears of psychosis you're having, any second guessing, any gaslighting, anything, you know, feel free to share. If not, may I ask you, what would you like to say? Because I'd like to get a tarot, an oracle card for the collective before we sign off. So anything you wanted to add, it's all on you.
If we go back to the idea of spiritual arrogance and tie that into what we've come to, which is chakra work, again, it's that discernment. It's that discernment, that heart coherence that you need to develop through that regular chakra work that will tell you whether somebody is full of shit or whether they're telling you stuff that you need to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
I love it. I love it. Let me read some of the comments. And you are so informative, incredible teaching. Thank you so much. I'm in the position where sisters are coming to me, and this is my first time helping. I value all the information you give, learning so much from all of you. Grateful to you. Thank you. So listening to this live has helped me step into my power to help and be radically honest. Excellent. And I say, so happy you're with us now. It is helping. It is beautiful. I cannot believe this journey. I just met soul sisters. It's amazing. Yes, once you open the heart to your value to this beautiful collective ascension, Once you say, yes, I'm ready. Once you say, but I'm not, I'm not fully healed, right? Like a lot of people think, like, I hate people that, again, another spiritual toxic or shit show. I'm fully healed. No, you're not, girl, because you wouldn't be here. So none of us are fully healed. And it's funny how the ancients understood the wisdom of showing us how powerful wounded healers are when they gave us in the constellation Chiron, Chiron, the wounded healer.
Wounded healer. Yeah.
Exactly. Chiron is our patron saint of us unhealed people. We are on the, so the more you know, the less you know. That's common sense. And so the more you heal, the less there's more to heal. It's like if you've ever done a stock with chicken. Here I am saying that as a vegetarian, but you see all the scum coming out, and you think it's almost over, and then there's more scum. Well, that's our process, and eventually, yes, it will be a clear consommé. There's no doubt. But we're on that journey here in this particular 3D. Once we get into 5D, we're on our way up. And at that point, there's not a lot more to of toxicity, of deviancy, because believe me, we've always deviant in past lives. We've done some really radically fucked up shit to people. We've enjoyed harming people. We have those shadows, but once those shadows are cleared, and we realize that being good, being in our light, being in love and loving is more pleasurable than being an asshole, we're good to go. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know? But
Do you know what book has just presented itself to me?
Yeah, please.
Do you remember I was telling you about the Acta Pilati, the account from Pilate about
Yes, go ahead.
So this was a letter that Pontius Pilate wrote to the Emperor Tiberius about the events surrounding the death of Yeshua. And it's just because we were talking about Yeshua.
Yeah.
He's referred to as the Nazarene or Jesus in this, so I'll read you just a short excerpt. By this time, the marble stairs groaned under the weight of the multitude. The Nazarene was brought back to me. I proceeded to the Hall of Justice, followed by my guard, and asked the people in a severe tone what they demanded. The death of the Nazarene was the reply. For what crime? He has blasphemed. He has prophesied the ruin of the temple. He calls himself the Son of God, the Messiah, the King of the Jews. Roman justice, said I, punishes not such offences with death. Crucify him, belched forth the relentless rabble. The vociferations of the infuriated mob shook the palace to its foundations. There was but one who appeared to be calm in the midst of the vast multitude. It was the Nazarene. After many fruitless attempts to protect him from this fury of his merciless persecutors, I adopted a measure which at the moment appeared to me to be the only way that could save his life. I ordered him to be scourged. Then calling for a ewer, I washed my hands in the presence of the multitude, thereby signifying to them my disapproval of the deed, but in vain.
Amazing. Can you tell them about the dream? Of his wife's dream?
Yes.
Because that's important because again, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump on that.
Yeah.
Fuck oracle cards today. We're moving on. Let's go. Tell us about the dream.
So Pilate's wife was from Gaul, which is modern day France, which was part of the Roman Empire. And she begged Pilate to spare the life of Yeshua because she had a dream, and the dream warned her about who Yeshua was and what the consequences would be if Pilate oversaw his execution. And also that there was an idea that Pilate had that he had to pacify the mob. And she begged him on the basis that he did not have to pacify the mob because it would not bring peace, it would not bring people to heal if he were to order the death of Yeshua. So she begged him to spare the life of Yeshua.
So if I might jump on this, so here we have a scene in the Bible, right? Right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
That talks about an oracle dream, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Joan of Arc, who's having she's a saint, now in Catholicism, she's Saint Joan of Arc. So it's interesting how you've got Christians saying this is the devil, to have dreams, to see, to be psychic, to know the future before it arises, to get signs. They call you the devil, and yet throughout it, they revere signs, but only signs that they approve of. Did you get that? Did you get that? So that story of Pontius Pilate could not be complete without telling the whole story. And so when they came to the Council of Nicaea in 4 something AD, with Constantine not believing in any of this shit, just on the side note, Emperor of today's Istanbul, right? It's almost like, and I've told this to Andromeda many. It's almost like there was one bishop who knew this was shit, and he left 2 clues. Now I'm going to say there's 2 clues. One was that Pontius Pilate's wife said, "Don't do this. I've had a dream that this is not good for us. We can't do this." And then the second little message that was left by one of the bishops, unbeknownst to the other bishops that were like hammering away at the Bible as we know it, and so it's putting all of these wisdoms into one book. They kind of scattered the rest away. Was who saw Yeshua coming out of the crypt first, which is Mary Magdalene, which proved that that was his divine consort, because it should have been John the Baptist or Paul or any of the other apostles, but no. It wasn't a man, it was a woman, and it happened to be not his mother, but his beloved. So one of these bishops, because it started coming to me this year, that one bishop sat at that table knowing that somehow he had to leave clues in. He might have been the scribe. He might have been the one who was tasked to write, you know what I mean? To put this, to edit the book while they converse, right? While they argue points, right? Taking reincarnation out of the Bible, right? So what are your thoughts on that, on that idea that we've been so subjugated and made afraid of signs, and yet throughout Catholicism, the signs they approve of are allowed, like I said, Joan of Arc.
I mean, Catholicism, and I speak as somebody who was brought up a Catholic, right? But Catholicism must be the only religion which creates a religion around somebody they clearly don't like, right? They clearly did not like what Yeshua really said about women. They created untold damage to the journey of divine counterparts by denying who Mary of Magdalene actually was. And they put emphasis on the punitive nature of what they call God. He hath 1,000 names, the one who created us all, source energy.
Yeah.
As my twin calls him, Yahuwah, right? So the damage that the Council of Nicaea did to the collective consciousness has reverberated throughout the subsequent centuries, creating division, instilling and maintaining and nurturing fear. You know, people are so castrated now that they feel that they only don't do bad things because they're afraid of the consequences, rather than having an actual moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
The damage to all of us has been severe and very, very real.
Yeah.
If you read the Gnostic Gospels, you actually see what Yeshua said about women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing women as equals, spiritual equals, whereas before women were seen as spiritually inferior.
Yep. Up until the 70s.
Yes.
Up until the 70s. It's one of the reasons why when I met my twin, and I'll never forget, we're on the beach in Florida. It's probably, the sun is setting. I'll never forget where the sun is setting, and I'm reading out loud from the beginnings of the Bhagavad Gita. I love the Bhagavad Gita. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But it did say there were two aspects that I couldn't, and again, Catholicism supported that. The misogyny, I really don't understand where it began. But even the Anunnakis, I got to give them credit, didn't have misogyny. You look at
No.
that was not their problem. They were just assholes, but not because of misogyny. So I remember reading the Bhagavad, and again, you know, we were told that we were subgrade human soul, subgrade souls, meaning we were B grade souls by the Catholic Church until the 70s. That meant we were very similar to creatures, to beasts. And so I remember at 18, I'm sitting on the beach with him, and I'm reading, and it says, if you're slovenly, you will be this animal, you'll regress to animals. But there was a point about animals, cattle, and women, and that to incarnate as a woman was a punishment that you had done wrong. And that right there stopped me on my tracks. I looked at him going, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. And he was, well, it's just, no, I know, I'm not buying that. And it was interesting because later on, like for 27 years in separation, by the time we got back together, he had evolved out of that belief. Out of that, the Bhagavad Gita is still one of the great works, okay? Or the Bhagavatam as well. But it's not, in other words, you got to remember at the end of the day, anything written in those ancient times were written, no offense to men. I've been a man. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was one of the bishops sitting there, and probably not the good one. That was probably an asshole. But my point is that this is tragic. Okay, and so and this idea. Now we know why Catholicism believed that women were shit, because first of all, you've got Adam, and Eve, right? And she ate the apple and blah blah blah. But we forgot about Lilith, right? Lilith being a badass. And so Lilith comes in, and look up Lilith, look up the stories. And there were lots of Adam and Eves, and there were lots of Liliths, just so you know, not just one. But anyway, when you look at that, when you look at, so the fall of man, was blamed on women and their sensuality. I mean, we have always been feared. And feared, why? Because of our power in our sensuality. So I'll give you a famous example of that. And I forgot which king he was, but it was Henry something. And Eleanor of Aquitaine was the richest woman in Europe, and because she was Aquitaine was France, and she owned all of it, and she was very, very rich. And she was older than Henry. The second man she married was Henry. I forgot his name. You might want to watch the movie Lion in Winter with Katharine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. Incredible movie, and it's based on a play. But anyway, there's a famous scene that he actually stopped a battle by riding bare-breasted on a horseback, right in the middle. Stopped the war, basically, just by being topless, actually nude. And so you understand that kind of fear of something that simple. Imagine a battlefield, a war about to erupt, and she stopped it by being nude on a horse. That's massive power. And so men in that timeline that went down the generations of consciousness, I think resented the fuck out of that kind of power, because that kind of power would melt a sword, right? A sword now was not as powerful as a woman's body, just her body. And that is quite an interesting idea and understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, Eleanor of Aquitaine she had two husbands, but she,
right,
in the 12th century, she lived to 82. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And she had, 10 children?
I did not know that she had 10 children. What a womb.
I think so. Yeah.
Because I remember, I mean, I didn't study her to that level of knowledge, you know what I mean? I wish I had, but I just remember the way the movie portrays the kid. They're all a bunch of idiots, these boys, right? They're all a bunch of slovenly idiots. But is that accurate?
Yeah, and I mean, she married Louis VII of France.
Okay.
But I think, within a few months of his death, she married Henry II.
Henry II got it, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I love about I love talking to you because I have a passion for history, but I study mostly the Carthaginians and mostly Napoleon, and I don't know why, um, but I love ancient history, and I feel as if what we are not getting is that in ancient history lies the nucleus of what influenced us throughout our generations and throughout our incarnations, right? And it's really, really important to recapitulate. One of the things that scares me about books written, a lot of the history that we have today is based on the 19th century historians who were very misogynistic and very racist. So to really get more of an accurate, you may want to start seeking books that were written in the 1700s. You know what I mean? By historians. Yeah, yeah, of course. Does that make sense? Don't you think? What are your thoughts on that? Like the ancient Greeks, they were great. They really didn't have a lot of opinions, right? In terms of
Yeah.
they just wrote down what the fuck happened. There might have been a bent more towards their story, you know, the Greeks, the Romans, but at least you know it was you guys kind of a clear idea what was going on, right? What
Yeah.
was that, right? Whereas the 19th century historians had an agenda.
Yeah. Well, and also the Tudor historians had a massive agenda.
Okay.
I would include William Shakespeare in that actually, because if you look at plays like Richard III, that was massive pro Tudor propaganda, right? You know, Richard III was a warrior king. We could go into like the history of the War of the Roses, etc. But Richard III was he was athletic. He was a warrior, and in uh, Shakespeare's Richard III, because of course Richard III was defeated in the Battle of Bosworth Hill by Henry VII, who was a Tudor.
Was
Okay,
it was this when? And again, I keep relating to movies. Was that Kenneth Branagh's movie on Henry?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember because okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me. Rich, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that Richard III was dethroned
Oh,
by Henry VII at the Battle of Bosworth Hill, and of course Henry VII began the Tudor dynasty,
wow.
which was a time of, I mean, England was in turmoil. England was in turmoil during the War of the Roses, from Henry VI to Richard the Fourth.
Yeah.
Sorry, Edward the Fourth to Richard the Third, then Henry the Seventh, Henry the Eighth. Well, we all know what happened there. Then his son Edward, who was a child, when he succeeded to the throne. Then Mary Tudor, aka Bloody Mary, and then Elizabeth the First. A time of massive turmoil and brutality and oppression.
Yeah. Right on. There's a great series that you may want to read. Remember the Diaries of Samuel Pepys?
Yes.
That puts you right there in the way the day-to-day lifestyle of King Charles being put back into the throne. But I'm wondering, what books would you recommend? Here, why is this all important? I mean, why are we talking about these figures? Does anybody have any idea why all of these little subtle things are important to our collective reasoning and to what kept us from waking up and now suddenly we're waking up? What would be the reasoning? Do you want to share it, or what are your thoughts? Or anybody have an answer to that? Anybody on this panel?
I mean, all of these experiences seep into our collective consciousness and create generational and collective trauma. And they're also very stark representations of the divisions we need to heal. Also the greed. I mean, all of this was about seeking power. And what we know of, if we look at galactic beings, we know, for example, that the very high dimensional beings, they seek spiritual enlightenment. They don't seek conquest. whereas the draconian reptilians do.
Yeah.
And that galactic war, look at the galactic war between the draconian reptilians and the Lyrans.
Right.
That on a smaller scale, using less sophisticated weaponry, was what was happening on Earth during the times of the Roman Empire, for example,
Right.
or the War of the Roses in England in the 14th and 15th century.
Right.
Right? And these are the generational cycles, trauma,
Yeah.
egoic frameworks, the egoic need for power, influence, recognition, all of these things. This is what we have to heal as a collective. This is why it's important to understand history.
Thank you. Thank you. You said it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. So do you understand why some of these, like yesterday I did an Akashik reading, right? God bless her. Very innocent on many levels about her worth, So this is the second time in my entire incarnation I've come across an ancient, famous personage, right? I never do, okay? And I don't expect famous people to come through. Well, this person's past life was General Tomeli. This is the general who was he was a key general during Alexander the Great's conquest throughout the world. And he was actually, Tomeli is the Cleopatra line called Tomeli. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so this is really important because and I asked them, my guides, right? Why should why does she need to know this? Because by the way, when it downloaded, I went, what? What? Like, what? Like, out of nowhere, man. It's not something Tomeli. It's not something that comes up in my consciousness. And they always say, when I hesitate, they always say, write it down. So I wrote it down. And then I asked, why is this important? Because she's not a follower, she's a leader. She's a creator. And when I spoke to her, and this is important, all this shit, because she didn't know anything about that. And it's sad in a way, but hopefully she'll do some research. But so I said to her, you can't be a follower. She goes, I'm not a follower. I'm a lone wolf. I go, yeah, but what do you do? Well, I feel stagnated. I go, how long? Well, it's been years. I go, well, that's the problem. See, your job is to lead or originate new things. And if you're not doing anything, the reason why this particular life, it wasn't to kiss your butt and say, oh, la, la, la. It was to say, you created a whole fucking dynasty. Like, fucking do something. That's what it was saying. That was the purpose. Do you understand? And so when past lives come to you, and I'm sorry, no offense, but if you're getting a download, you were Napoleon, Cleopatra, really think again, okay? Make sure it's not a corrupted download, okay? But for the most part, you will actually come across incarnations of your experiences on this planet or other planets that are there to help you understand how limiting you are, how you're limiting the scope of your ability to co-create and originate massive transformations, not just for yourself and those you love, but for people around, in other words, you'll be long dead when what you've created when you were in this incarnation continues to expand itself and influence people. Long dead. And so it's very, very important that you realize your worth and how your message is so worthy. So quite often in my readings, I see muzzle lines. Muzzle, you know what a muzzle is, right? It's what you use to muzzle a dog. Okay. So a muzzle lion is a lion that cannot speak its truth or walk in freedom to speak its truth. And there's a part of it where you have to realize that you can't stop in dog shit. You can't fuck up. You will, because you're having the human experience. You will have somebody coming on saying, challenging you. You do not have to prove to them anything. If they don't like the truth that you're speaking, there are two truths. Your objective truth, which we call your truth, and then there's global truth, galactic truth. In other words, it's 2 + 2 = 4. We agree. And it's truth. And if they are going to challenge you and you have not built the muscle to rebut, so that it can help others. Fucking block him. Fuck it. You're not here to kiss anyone's ass. You're not here to fucking tell a 3-year-old mind that the sun sets, the sun sets and rises, and then the moon isn't following us. Shit like that, You're not here to convince them that what you're sharing is worthy to be shared. I'm sorry. I remember when I was in my 20s and 30s, because I believe in reincarnation, like you take the next breath, and I would have people who would challenge me, which was fine. I mean, no problem. But they wouldn't challenge me to learn. They would challenge me to throw dog shit in my face, to be honest. And I knew it. But then I would give them examples, and they still didn't, because they didn't want to believe. So you need to understand there are two kinds of people. Those who want to learn, and they honestly want to know why this is possible to reincarnate. And then there are those, and you can tell, who actually just want to make you look like they want you to doubt yourself. And with your monkey mind and the state that it probably is in, as you kind of second guess every move you make on the spiritual path, that's going to be easy to throw a rock in the pond of your awakening consciousness, right? Any questions or comments? Andromeda, anything you want to add?
No, that was perfect.
So so shall we call it a day? If I do an oracle card, it'll be just the first paragraph, because I got to get going, and I'm sure so do you. But would you like just the first paragraph on a oracle? Shall we do that as a bon voyage?
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like Pepe Le Pew, bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. Oh, good, Letty. All right, so go ahead and pick top, bottom, or middle. Feel free and draw to join. Top, bottom, or middle.
I'm going to go bottom.
Okay. Majority rules, top, bottom, or middle. I got bottom. Any calls? No? Okay. Top, middle. Okay, top. Okay, well, I'm going to go with one more. Top, bottom, or middle? Bottom. Top. Okay, I'm going to go with top. All right. Okay. This is 1. It's the number 1, which in Kabbalah numerology is the sun. So the sun, healing, clarity, so forth. Beauty way of the Nahaho. So it's HO apostrophe ZHO. So Hozo. I'm going to say Hozo, okay? It may not be the way I pronounce it, but my intention is, in my heart, is to say it the best that I can. Okay, so it's Hozo. You are my sacred earth child, and I am your divine earth mother. With unconditional love, I provide all that you want and need so that you may fulfill your sacred destiny. Holy shit, this fucking purpose. We will always belong to each other. With abundance and generosity, I support you and reveal such divine beauty meant for you, that joy and awe that shall fill your soul. Relax now. It is time for you to be healed. I'm going to go in a reading. There is a beautiful solution available. Do not place your faith in worry or stress. Allow life to unfold. As you relax and give yourself permission to rest within the vastness and beauty of nature, you will become receptive to the best way to handle things. Don't try to figure out by force. Let go and trust that what is needed is coming to you at the perfect time in the perfect way. Your peaceful mind shall readily and accurately perceive all that you need to know. All right, let me continue. What the hell? Yes, I will. I will, Kate, as soon as I'm done. Beneath the noise, beneath your worries and concerns, there is oneness between you and life. Even though your world may feel chaotic at times, even if you fear you have gone off track, the path that will return you to peace, beauty, balance, and harmony is always here for you. You do not have to become stressed or exhausted to fix what isn't working. Solution can come to you more easily when you allow yourself to drop out of pain and into the pleasure of the beauty of life. Sometimes problems will disappear altogether in this place, and you shall realize that they were nothing more than the dark creations of a fatigued mind. Sometimes you will discover a different way to look at things, a helpful vision gifted by spirit. Applying a simple and inspired idea can change everything and free up your energy so that you can become more productive. Honoring life's beauty isn't about ignoring the reality of the world or become superficial. Instead, it is a deep spiritual feeling of trust, openness, and appreciation of the divine presence shining in all aspects of life. This appreciation restores the soul with the sublime recognition of a greater loving intelligence that is always present, always inviting, always responding. When you find some form of ugliness is disturbing your soul, threatening to steal your peaceful trust in the divine, you are guided to come back to the beauty of life, back into worshipful reverence of the sacred. From that place, you then become empowered to deal with the situation in a way that increases love and joy in yourself and the world, rather than being overtaken by ugliness. Offer beauty instead. Okay, I'm going to stop right here for a minute. Yesterday, I forgot to give you a pranayama exercise that my twin taught me, because what happens is that when the way to return to the beauty way, right? To the Navajo way of connecting with nature, with yourself, with your divine, and all that. Sometimes your nervous system is so fucked that even a mantra won't help you. And so before you do a mantra, I'm going to teach you the train. We used to call it, he called it the train. And he would do it quite often. And he would do it for like 10, 15 minutes, which blows my mind. We're going to do it for about 45 seconds, not much. But what I want you to do is this. I want you to settle into yourself right now. And I want you to close your mouth. And you're going to hear me, and then you're going to replicate the sound. Through my nose, you're going to hear it. It sounds like a steam coming out, like a train coming into the station. All right, let's begin. I'm going to put my mouth next to this so you can hear it. Do you hear that? Your whole nervous system, you're going to feel dizzy. Your whole nervous system is being recalibrated. I'm dizzy, so dizzy in a good way. Recalibrated to relax. So when your monkey mind is fucking with you and a mantra wouldn't work, go into that zone and then go Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. There comes your monkey mind. Go back into the train. Okay? So I want you to do it. And then I want you to go ahead and report back right now. Like as soon as you're done, tell us what you're feeling. Okay? Pineal gland. Yes. Keep going. Love this truth. I receive. Beautiful. So go ahead. I want to hear you guys do it. Well, not hear you, but, and then come back on the comments and share. What did you feel? Did you hear that? Back to center, back to source and understanding. Beautiful. So what it did is neutralized everything. So you could go back to center, back to source, back to myself. Beautiful. Thank you, Katie. I'm so glad you're sharing. Anyone else want to share? So pranayama is the way that will center you back. Centered. Good. Will center you back to your ability to then reach for your mantra. Just so you know. My
Oh,
battery on my phone went dead. So sorry about that. It happens. It happens all the time. But I apologize for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess that's a sign off.
yeah.
Sorry about that. I had because Andromeda, whenever I say let's do an hour, what happens? It's never an hour.
Never mind.
And I apologize. And I unplug my phone purposely to connect. But then again, I won't do that to you guys again. That's my last time. I'm sorry. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and upload this live. So important. And thank you, Andromeda, thank you. Just your knowledge, your wisdom. You're like a breath of fresh air, and your love of ancient history and history is so important to the dialogue. My love of fashion through the ages is why when I look at a download of an Akashik reading, or when I do a hypnotherapy session with a client, I ask them what they're wearing, and that gives you an idea of what timeline it would have been, like 1700s, or you know what I mean, 1800s, or I love fashion through the ages, so that helps me a lot. So it's interesting how all of it is connected, of course, right? Because they're not going to tell you, not always. They're not going to say 1880. They're not. But if you know fashion, like I do, then I can more or less pinpoint it to it was probably between the 1860s and the 1880s. That helps, because the person can now go back to France in the 1880s and go, what was going on there, and how does that affect me, and so on. So really, I think it's important for you guys to start, just start watching the movies you're watching and try to capture and remember what you're watching. Right now we're watching like you were talking about the Tudors or the other Boleyn, or right, you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Watch it. Watch the costumes, because if you get a download, you're gonna remember. Oh, wait, hang on, wait, what in the fuck is this? Wait, hang on, is this the Shakespearean era? Is this Henry VIII timeline? Is this? Do you get what I'm saying? There's a movie. Oh my God, they just told me to share that with you guys. There's a movie called Orlando. And it's an incredible movie. I forgot, but it's called Orlando. And you'll see a redheaded woman lying in bed with a dark-haired man. And it's from above. It's a picture from above. And it's based on a book by Virginia Woolf, who I think was a brilliant author. And I want you guys to watch it this weekend if you can find it on Netflix or wherever you guys get your movies. But I don't know. I think it would be important and interesting for you guys to kind of sit back and look at that movie, because it goes through four ages. And have you ever seen that movie, Andromeda?
Yeah. So I've read Orlando. I've not.
Yes, me too. It's not like the movie at all, at all.
Fine.
Would you agree?
I haven't seen the movie. I've seen a ballet based on it.
Oh, you're funny. No, but if you read the book, it has nothing to do with the movie. Just it's kind of like I'm not sure how they could say that it was based on her book, because I still can't figure it out. But whatever. But it's not based on that. You'll see what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's more based on. I can't figure, actually. I don't know how they correlated those two. So the books we mentioned today on today's live was Somewhere in Time by Richard Matheson, or however you look it up. And the second book, well, not the book, but the movie will be Orlando. And I did mention Agora, Agora, with Rachel Weisz, which I really, really, really want you to see it, because one of my first downloads, I guess there'll be a part 2 to this live. My first ever true past life, like in my face download. I've been making love to my lover, in France, right, in Switzerland actually. And what do 18-year-olds do after making love? Well, they stare into each other's eyes if they're in love, in lust, in love, and that's what we did until the wee hours of the morning, and suddenly images start to erupt, and images that look like Egyptian, but it made no sense. And so he was saying, I'm watching you coming down a temple, but it's tall, like Titanic walls. And I went, yeah, I see it. And I said, wait, stop. What do I look like? And he said, you have dark hair, black hair, big blue eyes, like sapphire blue eyes. You have voluptuous, and you're tiny, you're petite, and you're wearing white. And then I described him. I said, I don't know how you're a soldier. You're a leader. I don't know what rank. You have bronze hair, and you're tall, and you're tanned. And I was like, Egypt? What the fuck is going on here? And there's a rebellion going on. And they're going up temple steps. And I was like, and I knew it was Egypt. And he described what happened. I was stabbed multiple times. And he ran into the temple for safety, saw my dying body, the death throes, and left my body. And because I was of an Egyptian philosophy, I was like, how could you abandon me like this, right? Okay, so I'm 18. I watched the movie Agora. I think I was in my late 40s, early 50s, and my mouth fell. I went, holy fuck. I was there during that period, 400 AD, where there were the pagans, what they would have called us high priestesses and highly educated people with the Alexandria Library, pagans, and there were the Christians, the new Christians. Watch the movie; it'll blow your mind. And that's exactly. And then suddenly I knew where I had been and why it was Egyptian, but not the Egyptians I knew of Nefertiti and Ramsey and even Cleopatra. It was an Egyptian I didn't recognize. And then I saw it and I went, whoa. So Agora also talks about the trauma of being brilliant, of being intelligent, of being scientific, and it not being safe in the new religion that was taking over the Western world. It's a primer. You need to understand some of this shit because that is our collective fear of going against the 1%. Does that make sense? That's our collective fear of being a healer, a touch healer, a psychic, a witch, and all of that. A druid, a druidess. We were hunted and hunted and hunted for many incarnations. And so we became muzzled because it was unsafe to be us. So you need to understand that. So these movies really help you. What's your last thoughts before I sign off? And again, I apologize for the technical error in my stupidity of letting the phone go down. Sorry about that.
No, you no need to apologize. And the oracle card was amazing.
Well, wasn't it amazing? It was so right on the mark, right?
It always is. But understanding where humans have been. And remember, like we can view history a lot of times as we would view our own lives in that consciousness, in that almost forgiving transcendental consciousness. So not only can we learn, but we can detach ourselves from the outcomes of historical events because we already know what's going to happen. Now imagine that you could look at your own life, this incarnation, in that way. Imagine you could do that. Imagine what that would do for you. Imagine that you could totally release any attachment to the outcome, manifest easily, and just understand everything.
Right.
Just imagine you could do that.
It's amazing. So somebody just said, Cosmic Canary said, I can't find Agora on Amazon. So I put here, look up actress Rachel Weisz, whatever, misspell, and then put Agora movie, the movie, and on Google. And it should come up and give you links as to where you can watch it, just on the side note. Same with Orlando. Just put Orlando the movie. And that should come up on Google and give you links to Amazon Prime, whatever, right? And then that should help you find those movies. Any questions or comments before we sign up? And again, there'll be a part 2. Sorry about that. Any questions or comments? How would you like to end it, my love? It's on you. Oh, by the way, before you ended, if you guys want a reading, I'm not going to hit you up. I've been very kind of loosey-goosey on this. I'm not going to hit you up. There are accounts, there are people that will pose as me, and I don't know why they would do that, but they do. And so they're going to pose at me saying, I really love your energy. Let me offer you a reading for $50. Please don't send any money. You need to call me. You need to contact me. It's on my Linktree, on my profile link. You go on my website, and then fill out your intake form and make sure you have a WhatsApp number if you're outside the US. Make sure you have your country code, or you tell me your country code, or you tell me the country. And then I will call you. Like, this lady is in Glastonbury. I called her this morning and we had a wonderful chat, and we've booked for tomorrow, right? For the Akashic reading. So it's that simple. I'm going to call, I do a pre-call with all my clients, and I mean a pre-call where you hear my voice, where we're talking. I will never communicate with you via text, or definitely not TikTok Messenger. I hate when people do that. I hate when people do that. So I always ask for their phone number, even if they do it, so I can call them, because there are 2 points. One is, you're not going to get ripped out because you hear my voice. And two, I want to make sure we're a match. That what I'm going to offer you in terms of psychic services or spiritual life coaching or whatever is going to help you, okay? And is going to be in alignment with what you need. And because there's karma here, right? And so if you're drawn to me, that's it. But please don't send any fucking money to anyone. That's not me if that's what's happening, okay? But okay, so we got that out of the way. So Andromeda, if you could say your close down shop.
Yeah, so just a little shout out to all of you for being awesome. And a request that you don't gaslight yourselves.
Yeah.
You keep working on your chakras. You notice the signs. You ask what the signs are trying to tell you, and you act on them. That's it. That's your key to getting through all of this, because it's not easy.
No, definitely not. All right, my loves, thank you so much for being here. I'll be uploading these videos as soon as TikTok allows me, sometime probably tonight. In the interim, please go to my YouTube page and find out on the two, on how we fell to 3D. And this is very important to your ascension journey and your twin flame journey. It really is, or twin ray. And sending you much love on your journey. Namaste, be well. See you soon. Take care.